Help support AMTV by becoming a patron, an AMTV staff member, and following us over on Twitter.
Hi there guys, it's Adam Martin here, and welcome back to another instalment of the Now Review, where I present to you Now 100 Hits 70s. As you can see, the cover, I actually love it, all the reds and pinks and oranges, and obviously the 70s font here is very 70s. That's such a 1970s design, but in the absolute best way. So I'm a big fan of the colours and the stars in the background too. There's the spine. You've got orange, white and yellow. Again, not sure why they do this. And on the back, you've got the track list, which of course is 100 songs, as this is a 100 hits release over 5 discs. Not 6 this time, just 5. So I think what we should do next is I'm going to take off the shrink wrap and we're going to look inside. Okie dokie, so the shrink wrap is off. Let's see what we've got in here. Oh look, the latest music for free. Well, you can download Spotify, I suppose, or the free one. I don't know if you get adverts on the Now app, someone will have to let me know, but there's Now Kids Pop and some of the other playlists they've got going on there. So here's CD1. I'm not going to read out the tracks individually, as I have been doing with some others, only because there's 100 tracks and we'll be here forever. But there's some absolutely iconic 70s songs on here. I mean, just looking at this, you can see like Bill Withers, I mean, obviously sadly passed away recently. Sister Sledge is on here. I mean, so many of these songs are absolute iconic classics. So that's CD1. CD2, let's span on down. Got some Brian Ferry, Billy Paul, Commodores. So many great songs. The 70s were such a funny time. I do prefer the 80s musically. That's just my own personal taste. But not that the 70s didn't have some absolute cracking gems to it. I mean, here's CD3. You got Fernando. Interestingly chose that one. Funnily enough, that is ABBA's biggest selling single, I believe. Still. Another Day by Paul McCartney. I've always loved that one too. Wuthering Heights by Kate Bush. Cracking song. War by Edwin Starr. Oh, I thought that was the late 60s. It must be the early 70s then. Absolutely wonderful. And look at that. That's the front cover, but without the 70s. I really like that, actually, those stars. Some would say a bit tacky, but then I guess the 70s were a little tacky, weren't they? CD4, you got the Cars, and with the original pop music, not the 89 remix, of course. Down Down by Status Quo, that's a great song too. You got something from War of the Worlds here, Justin Hayward's song. You got Santana, Madness, just some really great artists here from the 1970s. And the last disc, Kung Fu Fighting, of course, that had to be on it. Under the Moon of Love by Shawadi Wadi, if you haven't heard that, great song. We've got Kiki D and the New Seekers, Drifters, and what are we finishing with? We are finishing with Racing Cars, and they shoot horses, don't they? I can't say I've heard of that one, surprisingly. But right, as we flick on over, follow Now on all the social medias, of course, that's what they want you to do. And using CD1 as an example, let's take a look at what the disc looks like. Oh, there we go, it's in a nice yellow disc there, with stars all over it. Actually again, the stars design here is really good, so props to the CD for that one. It's not like Now 60s, if you remember when we did that review, or the 100 Hits Forgotten 60s, where the disc was sort of like in a pouch. I was sort of half and half on that design. On one hand, I thought that met the aesthetic, but I'm glad they haven't done it for all their releases. I don't think it would necessarily have worked for all their releases. So, I mean, what is there to say? I mean, it's a great selection of 70s tracks. Some of you might remember a few years ago, Now actually did release a Now That's What I Call 70s album, which I did cover here on the Now review, so you should go and check that out. That was about 4 or 5 years ago, I think. And that had nearly 60 tracks on it. And some of the tracks, yes, they do repeat. But obviously, like with these 100 Hits compilations, one obvious bonus is you're getting about 40 additional tracks, which is good. And you're getting a lot more variety this time, I'd argue. It's like when they did the 80s one, there's much more variety of the 70s here, which I think these albums actually do really well. So, I mean, if you're a 70s fan, if you're a big fan into the 70s, if you remember it when you were there, or if you just love the music, I think this is a definite must-buy. Even if you've got the original Now That's What I Call 70s, I think this is worth the upgrade, mainly for the extra tracks and the added variety as well. If you don't own a Now 70s album, or you just want a 70s compilation album, I'd say this is the leading one to get. Just obviously the power that Now has in terms of getting rights and stuff. it's the definitive 70s compilation, I would argue. But where can you find it? I mean, you can find it in most shops for between, say, £11 and £13. When I pre-ordered mine off Amazon, it was £11.99, so let's say £12. And that's probably the rough standing price that albums like these are going to get when they come out new. If you give it some time, and when we're able to go back into the shops, HMV will probably have it on their £2 for £15 range that they do so much with these now compilations. So if you're willing to wait, then that's when you can pick it up. I mean, if you don't like 70s music, well, first, what's wrong with you? No, I'm joking. If you don't like 70s music, then you shouldn't go for this, because this is the 70s. They do have other decade compilations in this 100 hits range, namely the 80s and all the forgotten stuff, like 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s. They haven't done 100 hits like standard 60s, or I don't think they've done a standard 90s one. If they have, I can't remember, just the forgotten stuff. I do like the forgotten range, but I do like that they're actually catering to specific decades as well, and I think there's a lot more potential in this 100 hit series now that it's been nearly, well, has it been a year? Just over a year, I think, since they started pumping those out. But yes, classic album filled with great 70s tracks and an absolute must-buy. But that's all for this installment of the Now Review. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed, please leave a like on that video and subscribe to the channel. I can't believe there's about 97% of you who watch who aren't subscribed. If you like what I do and you want to support the channel, please, please, please hit subscribe with notifications on. Like the video, leave your comments down below. Are you going to pick this album up? Subscribe if you're new, and until the next one, I will see you guys next time.
Thank you to our patrons for helping to support the show, and a special thank you to Macra, Hooks Media, Ben Freeman, Ethan Carberry-Holt, Bruce Danton, The Broken Kitsumanoid, and Francine Salazar, our AMTV staff members.